In this episode, we will be focusing on some common birds that you can find in Edmonton, Alberta. We'll also delve more into the fascinating lives of the butterflies that you can also see in the city. First, we'll go over some of the birds that are found here all year long, our hardy winter friends. Most woodpeckers are among some of our all-year-round residents, except for northern flickers and yellow-bellied sapsuckers who migrate in the winter. Downy woodpeckers are black, with beautiful white spots and stripes. Males have a small red patch on the back of their head. Hairy woodpeckers look extremely similar to downy woodpeckers, but are slightly larger, and their bill-to-head ratio is longer than downy woodpeckers. You'll find downy woodpeckers among deciduous trees in city parks and backyards. Downy woodpeckers are the most common small woodpecker species to visit backyard bird feeders. They prefer suet, but are also fond of black oil sunflower seeds. Woodpeckers don't sing songs like songbirds, but they do drum loudly against pieces of wood or metal to achieve a similar effect. A common misnomer is that people think this drumming is part of their feeding, but it actually isn't. Drumming communicates a bird or pair of birds' territory and helps attract mates. An interesting study of a woodpecker species found in Europe examined the vocal individuality of drumming of different woodpeckers, and they found that discrimination among individuals may be possible based on the intervals between the strokes and number of strokes that a woodpecker uses. Discrimination just means that they're able to identify different woodpeckers from each other. A 2023 study examined the abundance of various woodpecker species in urban green spaces, like the downy woodpecker and northern flicker. Their study found that the abundance of all woodpecker species increased with having green spaces in urban areas. And at a landscape level, lower woodpecker abundance was associated with increased urbanization. The highest woodpecker abundances were found in large green spaces with complex understories of trees, especially when there were mixed wood forests and deciduous trees. This really speaks to the importance of having forested areas in our cities and protecting those habitats for different woodpecker species. Pileated woodpeckers are another common woodpecker species found in Edmonton's natural areas, including the River Valley. Pileated woodpeckers are the largest woodpecker species in North America, and they are found in forests with large, mature dead trees. They are vital woodpeckers for forests because they eat wood-boring insects that can damage trees, such as beetles, termites, and ants. The male begins excavating the nest cavity, or the hole in the tree, and then the female helps near the end of the process with the entrance. The entrance of their nest cavities are more oblong compared to a circle shape. Nest construction usually takes around 3 to 6 weeks, and nests are rarely reused by these woodpeckers in later years. These nests are then used by many other wildlife species, including little owls, such as the northern saw-whet owl, bats, ducks, and martins. Pileated woodpeckers rely on large, standing, dead trees and fallen logs, which people sometimes remove because they find them undesirable. However, it's really essential that we keep these dead trees and logs, both for the insects that they can provide and for the wide variety of birds and animals that rely on these tree cavities to survive. Something special about woodpeckers is they have exceptionally long tongues. They'll use these very long tongues to reach into deep crevices where they're looking for beetle larvae and other yummy snacks. Storing this really long tongue inside their small head is a challenge, and they've got some unique anatomical features to help them do this. In order to be able to hold this long tongue, a woodpecker's tongue actually has to wrap around its skull, and researchers believe that this also helps protect their brain from high-speed pecking. Northern flickers have an extra long tongue, and this tongue is smooth and sticky, and it's perfectly adapted to capture ants. Pileated woodpecker tongues, on the other hand, are pretty short, and they've got these barbed tips which help them extract prey from crevices between the bark. Next, we'll highlight some common all-year-round residents, including the hardy little nuthatches and chickadees. Nuthatches get their name from holding large nuts onto the tree bark and then whacking them with their bill to hatch out the seed from the inside. White-breasted nuthatches, or how my mom fondly refers to them as little penguins, are small but have mighty voices that are heard throughout the forests in Edmonton. They're common feeder birds that you can attract to your feeders, and they'll often come in flocks with black-capped chickadees. You'll often see them storing seeds from feeders for later in winter by wedging them into the bark of trees. Red-breasted nuthatches find habitat in forests with conifer trees. In Edmonton, red-breasted nuthatches are commonly seen in the Whitemud Ravine. Nests are usually built in completely dead trees, dead parts of live trees, or trees with broken tops. Both sexes excavate the nest, but the female does more work. Excavating the nest takes around 18 days. The female then builds a bed of grass, bark strips, pine needles, and shaved bark. Both males and females apply conifer resin to the entrance of the nest. They have even been known to apply the resin with a piece of bark, which is a remarkable example of tool use. This resin is believed to reduce predation and deter competitors. Our next hardy little winter friend we will highlight is the black-capped chickadee, which is an abundant species in the city. Nesting habitat for these chickadees includes willow, alder, and birch trees. In these trees, they will excavate a hole for their nest. Alana shares some black-capped chickadee facts with us.
Interestingly, they weigh the same as a number 2 pencil. They're about 10 grams, so they're super small. And lots of people wonder why they stay here for the winter, how they survive the cold winter nights. They're so small. And one of the reasons is because they are little fireballs, literally. So average human temperature is about 37 degrees Celsius. Average chickadee temperature, 42 degrees Celsius. So they always run a little warmer. That also means that their heart beats super fast. So they've recorded chickadee heartbeats between 500 beats per minute and 1,000 beats per minute, which is absolutely crazy. They are just pumping. So those are a couple of reasons that chickadees are able to survive in the cold winter. But another one is, it's really weird. Chickadees actually grow more brain cells. Their brain gets bigger in the winter to help them remember thousands of different hiding spots that they've put their food. And I just think that that is so incredible. There are not many species who grow a larger brain after they're done, that initial development. But chickadees do it literally every year to help them remember where they've stashed their food away. And I think that's amazing. So even a bird as mundane, I guess you could call it, as the chickadee, has their amazing beauty and adaptations.
Many animals have alarm calls to communicate about danger. For black-capped chickadees, researchers found that the Ds specifically communicate the size and threat level of incoming danger. In other words, the more Ds added to the end of their call, the greater the danger. Nuthatches and other birds that flock with chickadees also respond by fleeing the scene when chickadees make these calls. Corvids are a family of passerine birds that contain crows, ravens, magpies, jays, nutcrackers, and more. They are highly intelligent birds, and they are quite common throughout Alberta in the winter. One of the first corvids we'll discuss are blue jays. Blue jays have tight bonds and are monogamous and mate for life. Blue jays are also clever, and they imitate other birds. By mimicking other birds like hawks, they can trick other birds into fleeing the area and leaving food behind so that the blue jay can take it. Blue jays build their nests in the thick outer branches of deciduous or coniferous trees, usually higher than 10 feet above the ground. Both the male and female will gather materials, but it's mostly the female that will do the building. They will have one brood or one set of eggs in a season, and they'll lay about 2 to 7 eggs. Like many birds, blue jays communicate with both vocals and their body language, such as using their crest. When the crest is lifted, it signals higher aggression versus when it's lower. The oldest blue jay in the wild lived to be 17 years old, but most blue jays live an average of 7 years. I am so grateful to be joined by Mackenzie Brown, who is a multidisciplinary artist. I am such a fan of their work, and she describes a bit about her artistic practice and highlights her love of corvids.
So dan Segakiao, Kamamat Mackenzie Brown at Sigaston. So my name is Mackenzie. I am a Nihiao Cree artist who hails from Sturgeon Lake Cree Nation, but I make my home in Mohkinstis in Calgary in Treaty 7 territory, traditional Blackfoot territory. And I am an artist of multiple disciplinaries, both from performance and drumming and singing and storytelling to doing physical art. I like doing muralism, big scale art, acrylic artwork, multimedia, infusing Indigenous and non-Indigenous practices of art together. I would really say, like, when I think about my creative artistic practice, I balance these two worlds that I live in. So I'm, a First Nations Cree woman, but then I also live in a very modern, contemporary society. And so my work directly reflects that, especially reflecting my living experience of being an Indigenous person within urban landscape. I actually went to Grant MacEwan University. I'm a proud alumni of MacEwan University. And yeah, I studied child and youth care, but a lot of the work that I did was actually incorporating Indigenous culture and Indigenous artistic mediums as a form of therapeutic care with the children and the youth that I worked with. To date, in Alberta and in Canada, we don't have any legislation that dictates that if you are an Indigenous person accessing services, that they should be done in a culturally informed way. We don't have anything like that. And so that became something that I was really passionate about, and just how art and culture is such a big part of me being a Cree person, and how that, in a way, really helps children and youth and can be a different form of meditation for them. Like I love crows. I love any kind of corvid. They're so smart. And we have a beautiful creation story where the crow brought the fire to Mother Earth. And on his journey, he used to be a beautiful multicolored rainbow bird. But as he was bringing fire back down to Earth from the sun, the fire burnt all of his feathers. And so, I love like the crow for that kind of story, or the raven who brought back the sun as well, right? Or the eagle, who is our teacher of love, and we believe brings love. I really say that my artistic practice and the themes that I really involve within it are really a love language back to my culture. in a lot of ways. It's a love language to, like a love letter to Mother Earth. I really love painting animals and all of our relations, plant beings, sky beings, flowers. And then also infusing, of course, contemporary kind of motifs or style choices or ways of color, along with Indigenous motifs and symbolism. I would say I'm a highly symbolic artist. Everything that I paint usually has a kind of meaning behind it and often depicts stories from my culture, my own lived experience. I love exploring nature in my art. I come from a culture that is land-based. And everything that we created, down to the porcupine quills or the dyeing of materials, was all from the land. And I think as, urban people or as society has kind of progressed, we've lost that connection to Mother Earth. And for me, it's so important because we ultimately come from Mother Earth, and at the end of our life, we return back to her. I think that Mother Earth teaches us so many things, teaches us how to be together, teaches us that diversity is our strength, teaches us that queer love has existed within nature for thousands and thousands of years and will continue to. And so I think that just by highlighting and giving her a voice through my artwork, helps to bridge that gap and remind people that we are land people first and foremost. Even if you're non-Indigenous or you're like a settler within these regions, like you still come from the land somewhere. And the more that we harness that relationship with her, just the better we're going to be, I believe. So that's why I'm such a big advocate of focusing on nature, both in symbols on my art, but then also I use a lot of mediums such as moose hair, caribou hair, plants in my work, even skulls, and honoring the animal that has given their life for me to create something. So it's really a part of everything that I do. I think that because I focus so much on nature within my artwork, that it innately has people thinking about nature and nature conservation. I think that the first part of nature conservation is being aware of your surroundings. And because my artwork, tells those kind of stories and makes people stop and really think. I have a mural here in Calgary, and it's honoring the whitebark pine tree, and it's an endangered species within our ecosystem. And so people will go and they'll see this, beautiful big tree with all these different colors, and then they'll start asking questions about it, and that in turn helps them to learn, and then they reflect on it afterwards. So with my art, I always try to give them a seed. This is the seed. You're going to take this, and later on when you're at home or in the comfort of your own space, that's when you'll start reflecting and thinking about these things that you saw. And so there, the seed starts to grow into a flower, so to say. I think just bringing awareness to Mother Earth, and oftentimes I'll depict indigenous to these lands kind of plants, and people will always say, oh, I know the wild rose, and I love the wild rose, and I didn't know that it was really good for vitamin C, and was one of the medicines that helped settlers get over their scurvy when they came, right? And so there are stories and there are things attached to it, and then it makes people think oh, okay, what other plants are indigenous to these lands and which ones have been incorporated? And there's a lot that you can learn about that too. So yeah, I think that innately people start to think about nature and nature conservation when they see my art. That when people see my work, that they go home and they reflect on their own experiences, being a person living in contemporary society, I hope that they, of course, reflect on nature and the different themes that I'm bringing, but I also hope that they reflect on their own journey towards like truth and reconciliation. I think that my art really evokes that, and you can look at my pieces and they seem contemporary, but I include a lot of like pre-syllabics and language within my pieces, and that always gets people to think and reflect, because when they see that, then they're starting to think like, oh, where are those syllabics from and what community are they from, and then they just start thinking that, yeah, of course there are Indigenous people here and Indigenous people doing these different things within contemporary society. So I really hope that they're able to reflect on that and reflect on their own like means to be allies within our societies too. And then I also hope that they reflect on how nice art makes them feel. Like that's one of my other things. When I create artwork, I create it out of joy, and my art's very colorful. And I hope that people can see that and then reflect on like, okay, where am I missing color or joy from my life? And so they can include that. And then two, the other thing that's really important for me for people to be able to reflect on is just the safety that art can make one person feel. I've seen areas of towns completely transformed because there's a new mural there, and that innately, makes you feel safe within a space, or brings stories that are in there but you might not know are present, right? So there's a lot of things that I always hope that my art does, but yeah, mainly it's that connection point, reflecting on truth and reconciliation, and then also just like color, how color makes us feel certain ways, and the safety that I hope that my murals can bring to spaces. Oh, there are many things that I love about being an artist. I think for me, like being an artist is actually like, it's part of my being, right? It's not just like a hat that I hold and then I take off afterwards. Being an artist for me means that I think creatively in all other aspects of my life. Being an artist for me means that I get to play. Like that's a huge part that I love with my art. Like I've been an artist since I could pick up a paintbrush, kind of a thing, and my parents always really encouraged that part of me, and same with my grandparents. And so when I do art, it's like I'm returning back to that child, right? That child who loved getting their hands dirty and creating pieces of things that made me really joyous and really happy. I think another part of what I love being an artist is I love when I'm painting a wall or painting a painting that's a little bit more public, and the questions that I get asked. I love that art is a medium that goes beyond language. I've recently, in the past year, made a really good friend who she had immigrated from Iran, and when she first moved here, like her English wasn't super great because she just moved from Iran. But we connected over art because she's an artist as well, right? And so even though we couldn't have like a full-on conversation, we would sit with each other for hours just creating. So I love that art. Everybody likes art in some kind of way, right? Whether it's music or paintings or those kind of things. And so I love that art is a bridge amongst people, and I like being able to be that bridge and facilitate important conversations that come to light because of something that I've created. I wish more people understood that nature and nature conservation is a reciprocal relationship between people and the land. I think that sometimes we think of ourselves as being bad for the land, right? Because of all these different things that we've done for production and extraction on the land. But human beings are actually a part of nature. And there are some species, such as sweetgrass, Sweetgrass grows better when it has human interference than it does when there's nothing. Same with sage. Sage is a plant that it needs humans to harvest it and help spread the seeds. And in turn, when you harvest it, the plant grows more robust, right? So I think that, we often see ourselves as separate from nature or bad for nature, but in fact, it's the opposite. We are actually good for nature. We've just forgotten that our relationship is one of reciprocity. And so how can we give back to nature as she gives to us? And so that's what I wish more people knew about conservation.
I am beyond grateful for Mackenzie for sharing her art, wisdom, stories, experience, and creative process with us. Their work makes my heart feel full, and we will continue hearing from her. But first, we will cover one more corvid found in the city all year round before going over some of the urban backyard birds and butterflies found in the springtime. This next species is controversial and beloved, the black-billed magpie. Edmontonians just voted the black-billed magpie as our city bird. No matter where you are in Edmonton, you're likely to see one of these stunning black and white birds with their beautiful iridescent tail feathers. When bison freely roamed the prairies, they had a symbiotic relationship with magpies, where magpies followed them. The symbiotic relationship between bison and many other birds continues to this day thanks to bison restoration efforts across North America after colonialism decimated bison populations. Black-billed magpies hitch a ride and hunt the bugs on a bison's back because their fur is often infested with insects. Bison dung was also collected by burrowing owls for their nest. Bison keep the grass short by grazing across grasslands, which is beneficial for many other grassland birds such as the horned lark. You can help out bison and grassland habitat by supporting Indigenous-led conservation efforts. Black-billed magpies have interacted with humans across history. Magpies have been villainized due to their loudness, for altering landscapes, and for being predators of other birds' nests. They also fiercely defend their own nests. Today they thrive in many urban spaces, and magpies can be seen throughout the city. While the black-billed magpie, like other corvids, is a nest predator, eggs and other birds' nestlings make up only a tiny portion of their diet overall. Like other corvids, magpies show high intelligence. In a study where they were examining magpies' ability to understand abstract relational concepts, they found that black-billed magpies showed a level of abstract concept learning that was equivalent to nutcrackers and greater than primates. Magpies have complex social systems with their own hierarchies within them. They will often be seen foraging on the ground and perched on various structures as a way to communicate their territory to others. Magpies provide important ecosystem services such as eating insects and carrion, which we also benefit from. Both males and females choose a nesting site together, although sometimes they disagree and they'll start building separate nests in different places. They'll build large dome nests in conifer and deciduous trees. These nests take about 40 days to build. They will have one set of eggs or broods in a season and lay 1 to 9 eggs. I love seeing magpies. I think they're so clever, cute, and curious, and I also love seeing them interact with other wildlife. Like the magpie, pigeons are treated as vermin and pests in our urban spaces. However, pigeons are beautiful and they are also intelligent. Research has found that they can remember between 800 and 1200 images, and this memorization can last years before they start to forget. They also pay high attention to different details when sorting through images. So next time you see a pigeon, I hope you can see and appreciate how remarkable they really are. Next, we'll overview some birds, bugs, and blooms you can find in city parks in the summer. As April comes around, birds begin arriving and butterflies begin emerging, with the morning cloak being one of the first butterflies sighted in the Edmonton River Valley. Most waterfowl and grebes have arrived by April, along with sparrows, shorebirds, and blackbirds. Usually in May, warblers, vireos, the remaining sparrows, and flycatchers arrive as well. In May and June, millbirds, tortoiseshell butterflies, and many other species will also be present. There are 22 species of warblers that have been found in Alberta. Willow shares about a couple species that migrate here in the spring.
That I like yellow warblers, because how could you not like a little yellow warbler? They're so pretty and they have such a pretty song, and they're just so cute.
Yellow warblers breed in shrubby thickets like willow along wetlands. I loved encountering the yellow warblers during my breeding bird surveys, and they do have a very sweet song. It sounds like they're saying, "Sweet, sweet shredded wheat."
I like the red-eyed vireos as well. They have a really cool appearance to them.
Alberta is home to 18 different species of sparrows. While a lot of these sparrows might look similar from a distance, as you get to know them, they each have unique features and beautiful songs. This is a white-throated sparrow. White-throated sparrows like to forage on the ground, usually hopping around in leaf litter, using both their feet to scratch the ground, pouncing on any insects that they find. Savanna sparrows also like to forage on the ground. In the early season, males like this one here can be found on top of fence posts, singing to declare their territory. Clay-colored sparrows also nest close to the ground, often less than a foot high, in shrubs such as rosebush. Clay-colored sparrows are known for their buzzy sound that sounds like an insect. If you didn't know it was a sparrow, you'd probably think it was a grasshopper. Another type of bird found in Alberta in the spring are flycatchers. As their name suggests, these birds eat a variety of different insects, using darting movements to surprise their prey. There are 7 flycatcher species in Alberta. The most common flycatcher species here in Edmonton is the least flycatcher. Flycatchers make great environmental indicators because they are sensitive to changes in habitat and pollution, and their populations can reflect the overall health of an ecosystem. While robins that stay all year round are becoming increasingly common, they are still associated with the signs of spring. Robins eat different types of food depending on the time of the day. In the morning, they prefer worms, and later in the day, they'll eat more fruit. Before, it was previously believed that robins relied primarily on visual cues to find their food, but in a research study where they covered worms with an opaque layer of cardboard, robins still were able to find them with ease. That's because they're using their hearing as well. The diverse ecosystems provide various breeding habitats for our different birds and butterflies of Alberta. Willow shares a bit more about participating in 2 different internships that were focused around conservation and environmental monitoring.
of Alberta with a bachelor's degree in majoring in biology and minoring in earth and atmospheric sciences. What got me into nature was probably a combination of my like parents and then like TV shows that I would watch as a kid, like Zaboomafoo or like Bindi the Jungle Girl. I thought she was so cool. I wanted to be just like her. And my mom got me involved like volunteering like at the Edmonton Valley Zoo and with Wild North when I was really little, and I think that's always sort of stuck with me and has definitely guided my like academic and like extracurricular pursuits. The most like direct, I suppose, like conservation would have been through volunteering with Wild North, like the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center in Edmonton. So I interned with them in 2024 and then I volunteered with them for a little bit this year as well. Like through interning and volunteering with them, being able to like I guess like raise in certain cases or like prepare animals to be released back into the wild and give them sort of a second chance out there it's been really rewarding, and it's really nice to see animals recover and grow up and go out into the wild. Yeah, so that's the most direct way I think I've been involved in conservation. And then through other volunteering things like with the Edmonton Area Land Trust or like with the Beaver Hill Bird Observatory, kind of involved in like the data collection, I guess, and like adding to like the knowledge base around the sort of critters we have around here. And I guess with the Edmonton Area Land Trust as well, which you and I were able to do a bit together, the snake relocation, moving them from one hibernaculum to like a more safe hibernaculum was also really fascinating and exciting and really rewarding as well. The house wren internship at the Beaver Hill Bird Observatory, myself and a fellow intern, we monitored 99 house wren nest boxes, plenty of which were tree swallow nest boxes, kind of unintentionally, and we would check them weekly, see sort of the progression of nest building, and then when eggs were laid, how many, and then moving to like when they hatched, and then for a little while we watched them when they were little nestlings, which was just the best.
Native plants play a very important role for breeding habitat for many of our butterfly species.
Fritillaries, I think that they've got the most intricate, beautiful designs on their wings, and they're one of those butterfly species where I think the underside of their wing looks just as beautiful as the top of their wing, and their host plant are violets.
Little yellow butterflies or sulfurs are another really common type of butterfly that you can see. Clouded sulfurs are among the most common yellow butterfly found in Edmonton and throughout the province. They're often seen puddling in the mud. Puddling in the mud is when butterflies gather to sit on damp areas and puddles, and they take in nutrients that are not usually available, such as salts and amino acids. Patsy, an environmental advocate and botanist, shares some information about an important species that is a host plant for the Canadian tiger swallowtail and morning cloak butterfly.
Trembling aspen tree. It's a dominant ecosystem type of our aspen forests. We're in the dry mixed wood or close to the dry mixed wood area in Edmonton. So of course it is the predominant tree, and I just find it beautiful. It has these slender white trunks which are nice to look at in winter. Right now, of course, there's a flush of beautiful green leaves. That was preceded in April by the grey catkins of the males, and now the females are green and producing their little capsules of seeds. It is beautiful in the fall when it turns yellow. When you have these yellow clones of trees. And of course, as a dominant keystone species, it's host to all kinds of food for animals, insects, caterpillars.
This beautiful butterfly is the red admiral. Its host plant is stinging nettle and other nettles. Even though we don't like the nettles, they do, so it's important that we have them around for these beautiful friends. Mackenzie shares about their connection to butterflies.
And butterflies, like obviously, so my Cree name is Kamamak, which means the butterfly. And so I'm very tied to butterflies and their story of going from darkness to light. But I'm as tied to butterflies as I am to moths. Because in our creation story, we believe that the moths gave up their colors so that we could have the rainbow. And so I really love moths for that, and how they're kind of like night butterflies as well. If you want to learn more about my art or continue supporting me with my art, support can look like something like following me on Instagram to purchasing pieces of my artwork for your event. But you can visit my website.
I'm so grateful for Mackenzie for sharing her artwork and stories with us, and I'm grateful for all the community members who took the time to share some of their knowledge and ways that they've been connected to conservation. This episode reviewed some of the common birds and some of the butterflies you can see in Edmonton. I hope that you learned a bit more about their habitats, behavior, relationships, and intelligence.